Today's story is about Nia, a young girl who dared to challenge generations of hatred. Her journey wasn't easy, and she faced rejection and doubt, but her unwavering kindness turned enemies into allies. This is the tale of how Nia's kindness united the feuding villages. Let's dive in. Long ago, in the heart of the African savanna, two villages stood on opposite sides of a powerful river. On the eastern bank was Zubri, a village of fierce hunters and warriors, proud of their strength. On the western bank was Jabula, a village of skilled farmers who thrived on the river's fertile land. But instead of sharing the river's blessings, the two villages were bitter enemies. For generations, they had blamed each other for every misfortune: bad harvests, poor hunts, even storms. The river, once a source of life, had become a symbol of division. Children grew up hearing stories of betrayal and theft. The people of Zubri called the Jabula lazy thieves. The Jabula, in turn, called Zubri violent and greedy. No one dared cross the river for fear of angering the other side. For years, the tension between Zubri and Jabula had festered like a wound that refused to heal. What began as small misunderstandings grew into a deep and bitter feud, passed down through generations. The two villages had become consumed by their hatred, and the once thriving lands around them seemed to echo their despair. It wasn't just arguments or mistrust that divided them. Both villages had turned to darker practices. Stories spread of curses whispered into the wind and charms buried beneath the soil to bring misfortune to the other side. At night, fires would flicker in the distance as both villages sought the aid of witchcraft to harm their enemies or protect themselves from spells they believed were cast upon them. Farmers in Jabula would wake to find their crops withering overnight, blaming the hunters of Zubri for their misfortune. In Zubri, hunters would stumble upon empty traps or find their prey mysteriously gone, claiming it was the work of Jabula's sorcery. Even the river, which once symbolized abundance, seemed to rebel against them, its fish becoming scarce, its waters raging violently during storms. Fear and suspicion seeped into every corner of their lives. Children were warned never to wander too close to the river, lest they fall victim to the evil eyes of the opposing village. Elders, who once spoke of unity and shared history, now muttered only tales of betrayal. Nothing was going well for either side. Their hatred consumed not just their thoughts but their fortunes, leaving their fields barren, their livestock weak, and their hearts heavy with resentment. The villagers would sometimes gather to perform rituals, hoping to turn the tide of their misfortunes, but these acts of desperation only deepened the divide. Both villages were caught in a cycle of blame and retaliation, unable, or perhaps unwilling, to break free. The river that ran between them, once a lifeline, now felt like a symbol of their separation, growing wider with every passing year. This was the world that Nia was born into. She grew up listening to the elders recount tales of feuds and misdeeds, of lost opportunities and curses cast under the moonlight. But unlike those around her, Nia could not accept this as the only way. While others saw the river as an impassable barrier, she saw it as a bridge waiting to be crossed. She was small and unassuming, but her heart was full of compassion. Unlike others in her village, she didn't believe in hating the people of Zubri. To her, they were just people living across the river, not so different from her own family. Nia would often sit by the river, watching the villagers of Zubri from afar. She noticed their children playing, their hunters returning with game, and their elders sitting under the shade of baobab trees. They're just like us, she thought. Why can't we live in peace? One day, she asked her grandmother, "Why do we hate them so much?" Her grandmother sighed. "It's not hatred, child. It's history. Too many wounds, too much pain. Some things cannot be undone." But Nia refused to believe that. She dreamed of a day when the two villages could live as one, and she decided she would do something no one had dared to do in generations: cross the river. At dawn, while the rest of the village was still asleep, Nia filled a basket with the ripest fruits from the harvest: mangoes, guavas, and bananas. Balancing the basket on her head, she made her way to the riverbank. The river was cold and swift, but Nia stepped in bravely, holding her basket above the water. The journey felt like a lifetime, her heart pounding with every step. When she reached the other side, the people of Zubri stared in shock. A girl from Jabula on their land? It was unheard of. She walked straight to the center of the village, where the mighty Chief Omari sat surrounded by his warriors. He was a tall, imposing man with eyes that seemed to pierce through her. Nia knelt before him, setting the basket of fruit at his feet. "Great Chief Omari," she said, her voice steady but soft. "I come not as an enemy, but as a neighbor. I bring you these fruits as a gift of peace." The crowd murmured, their voices a mix of confusion and anger. One of the warriors stepped forward. "Why should we accept anything from her? It could be a trick." Chief Omari raised his hand for silence. He looked at the basket, then at Nia. "Do you think a basket of fruit will erase the pain your people have caused? Take your fruit and leave before we throw you into the river." Nia's heart sank. She had hoped for kindness, but instead, she faced rejection. Tears welled in her eyes, but she stood her ground. "I cannot undo the past," she said, her voice trembling but determined. "But someone has to take the first step toward peace. I will not leave the basket. It is my gift to you, whether you accept it or not." She bowed deeply, then turned and began the long walk back to the river. That night, Chief Omari sat in his hut, staring at the basket of fruit. He couldn't stop thinking about the girl's bravery. Why would someone so young risk so much? Could her words be true? The next morning, he called his warriors together. "Take this basket to Jabula. Return it to the girl's family, and bring a message. Zubri does not need their pity." The warriors did as they were told, but when they arrived in Jabula, they found Nia waiting by the river. She accepted the basket with a smile and said, "Thank you for returning it. But know this, I will not stop trying." The warriors returned to Zubri with her words. Chief Omari couldn't help but laugh. "She's persistent," he said. Nia didn't give up. Every week, she brought something new to the village of Zubri: fresh vegetables, woven baskets, even a clay pot filled with honey. Each time, she faced rejection, but she remained kind and respectful. Slowly, the people of Zubri began to talk about her. Some called her foolish, but others admired her courage. Even the elders of his village threatened to beat her seriously and mix her with wolves if she don't stop going to village of Zubri. One day, a boy from Zubri named Tay crossed the river with a basket of fish. He left it on the bank and hurried back, too afraid to face the people of Jabula. But Nia found the basket and smiled. It was a small gesture, but it was the beginning of something new. As the months passed, more and more people began crossing the river, trading goods and sharing stories. The once hostile riverbank became a lively meeting place. Finally, Nia approached the leaders of both villages with an idea. "Let us hold a festival by the river," she said. "A celebration of our unity." At first, the chiefs were hesitant. But when they saw the excitement of their people, they agreed. The festival was a grand affair, with music, dancing, and feasting. For the first time in generations, the people of Zubri and Jabula laughed together as one. Under the light of the full moon, Chief Omari and Chief Ao stood before the crowd and clasped hands. "We owe this peace to Nia," said Chief Omari. "Her kindness reminded us of what truly matters." From that day on, the river was no longer a barrier, but a bridge between the two villages. And Nia's name became a symbol of hope, proving that even the smallest acts of kindness can create waves of change. And that, my friends, is the story of how Nia's kindness united the feuding villages. A reminder that bravery and compassion can heal even the deepest wounds. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more inspiring tales. Until next time, let your kindness shine like the river's light.